Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. As U.S.-Israeli operations against Iran escalate, questions are mounting over NATO's role and Europe's cooperation. President Trump has publicly criticized France and the U.K. for denying overflight rights to U.S. military shipments, while Secretary of State Marco Rubio suggests the alliance itself may need rethinking if allies restrict basing in times of conflict. Now, to discuss what that means and the latest, we're now joined by Reuben F. Director, Asia Research Center, Casimir Pulaski Foundation. Good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Let's start with that quote from Rubio. That was very recent. I'll go on and expand it. We're going to have to re-examine the value of NATO, that alliance for our country. Is this the next crisis in the transatlantic relations? How strongly of an impact will this kind of talk and statement have on the alliance?
Well, it's not going to be good, but I guess in one respect, you look at it and you say, wow, here's a NATO partner nation restricting basing rights at a time when we really need their help. On the other hand, we've been seeing this within NATO for a long time. We keep having these coalitions of the willing. And the reason you have them is because the entirety of the alliance is not willing. So you have to come up with these subsets. And this is just going to continue. I don't see any way around it because there are just too many countries now with their own agenda.
Mm-hmm. But also in terms of just realistically, the reaction also from NATO. I mean, we already have comments by the French president's office, the Élysée Palace, who are saying that they're astonished by such criticism, as well as the UK, who's actually helping out in some regard more and more, also moving certain assets to the Middle East. I mean, what does that do also in terms of cohesion with the alliance? I mean, tangibly, what will happen next out of all this?
Well, I imagine this is going to be an issue when we have the next sort of major meeting of NATO ministers or the next major NATO interaction. And you can be sure there's an awful lot of back channel dialogue going on now. And the one thing I will expect probably to happen is that these NATO members will say, well, okay, we're willing to do certain things, but there's a quid pro quo. I mean, I would expect if Poland, for example, is asked to do more, they might ask for a permanent U.S. troop presence or a larger U.S. presence. That all of these countries are starting to get jittery.
Mm-hmm. Although we do have information already. I mean, that request was made to move one of those maybe more Patriot batteries from Poland to the Middle East. The Polish government said, no, that's not going to be happening. But interesting theory you've stated there. I want to also ask about timing as well. We've just heard recent news statement by President Trump. He's saying, well, this war will be over in 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, we famously have his deadlines. I mean, how do you see that? Do you see that as realistic? Is he playing for more time?
You know, if I could have $1 for every single military and political leader throughout history that said this is going to be a short, victorious war, I could probably retire. It's not realistic. It's not going to go away in 2 to 3 weeks. This is all about positioning. This is all about trying to position the United States for when it gets involved in some serious talks with its alliance partners. Leverage, trying to gain leverage.
Mm-hmm. And also, speaking of leverage, we also have information that we have yet another U.S. aircraft carrier en route to the Persian Gulf. I mean, I think that increases the presence of at least almost 3 carriers in the vicinity. We know that the amphibious landing force of the Marines have been also deployed nearby. Does that give us give us the maybe strategic signal, if anything, that tells us, is this more posturing or is this getting ready for more operations?
Well, this is a great signal, but I want to remind everybody that this is another example of how we, the United States, still are not doing as much as we should. When we did Operation Desert Storm under George Bush Sr., we had 6 carriers in the Gulf. When we did Operation Iraqi Freedom under his son, we had 5 carriers. Now we're going to have 3. And one of the 3 is the USS Gerald Ford, which has had to put into into Europe to repair some damage from a fire that took place on board. So yes, it sends a great strategic message, but it also shows how we're spread too thin.
Mhm.
How are we ever going to control the situation in the Middle East and defend Taiwan and handle problems in the Mediterranean, or sorry, in the Caribbean, and deal with the Russians and supply the Ukrainians? Well, it's going to take a lot more weapons being built and a lot more people getting involved.
Reuben, you just mentioned it there, stretched too thin. You also mentioned Ukraine. I mean, this is something really critical. This is exactly the kind of thing that President Zelensky was afraid of. We're also looking at certain supplies, I mean, still critical supplies that have been purchased by European money of U.S. equipment, this NATO PURL program. Do you think that those shipments, are they going to be delayed? Will there be any kind of hitches on providing that to Ukraine?
I think there's going to be a tug of war. I mean, what it took the last time was the intervention of the Polish foreign minister, Mr. Sikorski. If you remember that particular scenario, which was last July. Um, this is, I said this to your colleague the other day. This is disgraceful that 4 years after, more than 4 years after a major war began in Central Europe, many of these munitions, which are now in short supply, the production rate has not increased during that time, despite all kinds of promises that we were told, and I was told personally, oh, yes, we're going to surge production. I want to give you a statistic, which is absolutely damning. The Lockheed Martin MSE missile, which is the missile that people are talking about when they talk about the Patriot battery, in the first 4 days of this Iran conflict, the number of those missiles fired off equals 18 months, that's a year and a half, of production at the single production line in the United States. And we're still building in the hundreds of those missiles per year instead of in the thousands. Now, that's what we call in baseball as an unforced error. That's terrible planning on somebody's part. I mean, if I could be king for a day, the people responsible would be sitting in the public stocks wearing dunce caps.
I mean, interesting also, you pointed that out in terms of production and things that actually, I mean, this whole NATO program actually to purchase arms and what's required by the Ukrainians, that was touted as something of a great achievement with NATO and also President Donald Trump. Now, is that at risk? I mean, he's also got his own reputation and reliability to consider here. Do you think that he's going to backtrack on this? Will he deliver? I mean, I want to poke you a bit more on this. Is it a production issue? Can it be amended? How's it going to work out?
Well, it is kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? It's called PEARL, means the prioritize. The P stands for prioritized, Ukraine requirements list. Well, how the hell can it be prioritized if you're going to take it away from them? And this production problem, this is very real. Buying these weapons, it's not like going through the McDonald's drive-through and say, "Oh, I think I'm going to get 16 cheeseburgers instead of 5." No, it takes time. More money doesn't do anything immediately. You've got to build buildings, you've got to hire people, you've got to expand supply chains. These things all take incredible amounts of time. No one's been doing this. None of this has been happening, and this war has been going on for more than 4 years.
Mhm.
So why people are surprised is because they ain't been paying attention.
All right. Also, speaking of keeping attention focused on the region as well, I'm just going to get your sense as well. We have one source in the Wall Street Journal saying that the UAE are actually preparing to reopen the Strait of Hormuz by force, helping the United States. So that's one source. But also that coincides with the United Nations Security Council, that temporary presidency of Bahrain as of April 1st. They drafted a resolution a few weeks ago condemning Iranian strikes, violation of US law. Do you see the Gulf states in any way maybe now taking some sort of military action? Is that feasible?
It's feasible, and you have to ask the question, why are they not doing more? I mean, we've been selling them some of the best military hardware, both we and the Europeans, for years now. The largest U.S. export sale in history at the time was made to Saudi Arabia 16 years ago in 2010. And it was all this equipment. And we were all told at the time that, well, this is so the Saudi Arabians can defend themselves and their neighbors against Iran so that we don't have to come in and do all the heavy lifting. Well, guess what? We're back in the Gulf and we're doing all the heavy lifting. So my question is, where have they been the last month?
Hard to predict. It's constantly fluctuating, Reuben, but I just want to get your sense, if all this is to be believed, also what we're seeing in Israel, we're seeing these strikes continue, we're seeing, or rather hearing one thing and another from the Iranians and the American administration. What does this look like in the next sort of week or two?
At some point inside of Iran, my prediction is, and this is just based on what I'm seeing and what I'm reading and people I'm talking to, at some point things really start to crack, and people have to understand that these types of brutal, authoritarian, radically just barbaric regimes, I've seen this but with my own two eyes in other places. They collapse very quickly, sometimes in one afternoon. It's not something where they're going to fall away a piece at a time. And that'll of course accelerate at some point when the U.S. and Israel have knocked out enough of the launchers for Iranian drones and Iranian missiles. They can have all the missiles and drones they want. If they have no way of launching them, then they're dead. There's nothing they can do.
All right, so we'll see how this situation, I mean, it is incredibly volatile, but thanks for giving us the latest and your perspective there. Reuben F. Johnson, always a pleasure having you with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.